have a good variety of movies today that will certainly have some you'll like. Let me present you with this episode's films. A mean and spiteful girl with an autistic older sister befriends a weird kid who, besides the tendency to hurt animals, also has special abilities. Not only does he have special abilities, but another girl in the same apartment block has it too. Together they discover that they can channel their powers together with the older sister. Mean kids, however, are quite the task, and it's only a matter of time before bad things happen when you factor in the superpowers. The Innocents is a dark and brooding Danish thriller with some horror elements that grates your nerves from the beginning to the end. The fact this is kids doing some horrible things to each other and others makes this so compelling and chilling, and over the course of the movie you get some feelings that you should not have when dealing with kids, but you do, and that makes it all the more horrific. The Innocents, aptly named, but a very dark look into power, innocence, and a lack of morals and education. Smash that. Nathalie, a Russian doctor, played by the alluring Patrizia Gori, gets captured by the Nazis and imprisoned at Fort Stillberg, a luxury brother for the German elite where overseas women are used and abused by sadistic SS officers. Nathalie is, if you didn't realize yet, one of those movies with Nazis, whips, leather, stilettos and sex, but it's quite tame in comparison to other movies of the same genre. Nazi-exploitation isn't for everyone, but I always considered it a fun genre that likely gets imitated in Hollywood blockbusters where the big evil Nazi was a taller-than-life villain who was into all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately for the lovely face of Patrizia, we don't get to see her at her best all that much, and everything else is pretty tame. Especially the wicked warden, and her shrill voice is quite annoying and badly acted, and despite her outfits she can shrivel up the tallest man to the size of a dried out grape. Nathalie is one of the many failed attempts to make this genre great. It has Nazis, real Nazis, the ultimate baddies doing bad stuff, but it doesn't go far enough, and it doesn't have enough style to reach the heights of Ilse She-Wolf of the SS and others. If you're a fan of the genre, feel free to watch it, but know what you're getting into. Check that. In White Chicks, Sean and Marlon Wayans, who were quite the rage in the early 2000s, are expert undercover FBI agents who are tricked into doing a mission no one else wants to do. Their mission? To make sure the two white blonde-haired women they are impersonating aren't kidnapped, and so they don on a white wig, paint their skin white in some whitewashing machine, and put on some pumps, and it is a hit and miss being funny, I guess. The jokes are simple, really simple, and usually didn't amuse me unless it went politically incorrect, like driving in the car with 3 girlfriends who refuse to sing a rap song. Until they do, like 2 black guys using their white privilege before all the liberal loons in the States used that word to define a whole race. Like when 2 large burly men have to act like 2 petite women and have to try to go to the toilet together, which of course revealed something to me that I didn't even realize, cause you know, girls don't poop, right? Terry Crews has some memorable and very memed scenes in this movie, but despite his charm and fanfare it fell a little flat for me. Overall, White Chicks is an okay comedy since it actually made me snicker a little bit. I'm not a real comedy person unless we go politically incorrect or rude, and this is enough to save the movie from total disaster. Check that. In Sergeants 3 we get all members of the real-life Rat Pack: Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford and Joey Bishop before they broke up, in a classic comedy western about 3 sergeants who are sent to investigate an incident in one of the towns that was attacked by a group of Indians. The show mixed male bonding humor with some action as they venture into the abandoned town looking for what happened and are attacked by the group. Sergeants 3 isn't a second sequel or something and was originally to be called Soldiers 3, hence the weird title of Sergeants 3. Maybe the 3 sergeants didn't sound right to them, but it sounds better to me. Anyways, Sergeants 3 is a very enjoyable classic western with all the western cliché tilde copyright and some good humor. The sergeants play tricks on each other and others and are pretty much the group of friends that have each other's back and screw over anyone else. Together, Sergeants 3 is good, classic fun. Check that. The Borderlands, also known as Final Player, is a documentary-style horror movie about two Vatican investigators who are sent to a parish somewhere in England where a priest recorded something strange. As our two very British investigators do their thing, they experience things they did not expect, and a whole lot of skepticism. The Borderlands is one of these found footage films that luckily isn't full of annoying shaking cam and bad acting. One of the characters I found to be quite dreadful, but he changed his tune half an hour into the film, so that nuisance went away. The story is simple, dealing with two outsiders entering a village trying to see what's going on and being greeted appropriately by those who have been living there since whenever. It's not scary, but on the unnerving scale it ranks a solid 6. Especially near the ending. The Borderlands is surprisingly well made and better than one would expect. Check that. What do you get when you mix Sharknado with Iron Sky? A glorious movie called Sky Sharks that is way better than you expect it to be. Sky Sharks tells the tale of a group of Nazi zombies hijacking and destroying an airplane with jet-fueled sharks. You heard that right, flying sharks with jets and rockets and other glorious methods to dispense of people. There's swastikas and armored Nazis, and boobs, yes. There are some boobs in this too, and bloody good sexy time. The music used, together with the neon vibe, brings in that nostalgic romanticized 80s vibe, making it all even more better. Add in Eva Haberman, we all know from the better season of Lex, and some large guest stars. Add in some superb animation and fake ads. Add in pre and post and normal credit scenes. Bring on gratuitous boobs. It's glorious. Glorious. For those who saw Kung Fury or Turbo Kid, this is definitely up your alley and maybe on par, if not better than these movies. For me, this movie had everything, and, more importantly, it just is fun because it is having fun with what they have. I mean, zombie Nazis on flying sharks taking over the world? Come on. Smash that. In The Messenger we get an American soldier, played by Ben Foster, who gets the assignment to become a member of the casualty notification team, the instance of the American government that notifies family and next of kin of the passing of their son or daughter. He gets teamed up with a veteran of that trade played by Woody Harrelson and quickly becomes aware that this job is harder than expected. Besides rules and emotions, he also deals with the loss of his girlfriend to another man and falling in love with a broken bar. I won't spoil it. Foster and Harrelson are good in their role as ever, though you will quickly recognize the same acting style from all the other movies they've played in. The Messenger is an emotional drama playing with the concept of love and loss, PTSD, and what it means to be in the army. For a civilian like myself, I was still involved in what happens in the movie and what these men, and the families, go through. I wasn't quite fond of the love story, but I understand something had to be there in order to justify the existence of the movie. Without it there isn't much there, and that might be the Messenger's single fault. A very singular message. Check that. The House of Whipcord has Barbara Markham's character be picked up by a man and suddenly finds herself imprisoned in a hospital/prison run by a bunch of sadistic elderly patrons. Her friends set out to search for her, but with every passing day the possibility of death becomes more and more possible. House of Whipcord tells the story through a flashback and has frequent cuts to other people which, surprisingly, are quite jarring. Overall, the movie is a typical girl gets abducted and tries to escape kind of flick with little to no surprises, though you might be surprised to hear that this is not a true sexploitation movie. For that it is way too tame. The movie gets a bit more interesting near the end when it slips in some critiques on the criminal justice system and law in general, but overall it's a fairly standard and unoriginal movie with mediocre acting, plot and editing. Check that. Iron Chain Fighter is a Chinese martial arts movie about a fighter who, you guessed it, fights with an iron chain. Hearing that, you would expect some kind of Jackie Chan level of action with a guy wielding a heavy chain. Unfortunately, Though there's a lot of kicking and punching and shouting, the chain action is a wee bit tamer than I expected it to be. Regardless of the era this was made in, Iron Chain Fighter's story is one of revenge. Revenge for being wrongfully imprisoned for 15 years. Revenge for the killing of a loved one. Revenge against a mysterious figure called the Black Leopard. I watched Iron Chain Fighter in original Chinese with subtitles, so I wasn't privy to any of the glorious dubs these movies usually are treated to. It sounds and looks like all the other movies of this genre, with a lot of grunts and sounds of cracking whips. There isn't a lot of wire work and everything is fairly realistic. At least as far as realism goes in these movies. I do wonder how many pots and chairs were destroyed in the making of this film. Overall, Iron Chain Fighter is an okay Chinese martial arts movie, so if you are a fan of these, be sure to watch it. If not, then you might be a wee bit disappointed by not having a very heavy iron chain be wielded like chains in movies such as Spawn and Ghost Rider. Check that. Remember when you were a kid and you put your baby tooth underneath your pillow or on your pillow or next to your bed so the tooth fairy would come along, pick it up and give you a gift? I don't, cause I never lost any of my teeth, but I'm sure you humans do. Nasty teeth. I often dream of them shattering, and the mere thought of it breaking sends shivers across my spine. Anyways, this movie is about that tooth fairy, but if that tooth fairy was a homicidal little imp-like creature who eat the tooth and gets very pissed when he, and his friends, doesn't have anything to eat. Written by Guillermo del Toro. You can expect a lot of style in this movie and certain scenes, especially the first one, with the teeth, shudder, are quite effective. Unfortunately, that was about it for scars for me, as this horror movie is a little bit too much fairy tale and not enough horror. The characters in the movie are compelling enough, though it gets a bit for the adults of the movie to jump into action, and when they do it's, well, a little bit lackluster. Don't be afraid of the dark could have been a very interesting movie, but to me it didn't go far enough with the myth of the tooth fairy. It's enjoyable to watch though, so don't take that as a fault. Katie Holmes is charming as ever, and the then still young Bailey Madison is believable as she tries her best to warn everyone of the danger. If you like light horror with a fairy tale twist, then this movie is definitely for you. It might even be fit as an introductory horror movie for children, though it has some gruesome things that are implied to happen. If you want a really creepy story about teeth, however, be sure to watch the first season of Channel Zero. Shudder at all those teeth. Check that. There, that was that. Another one for the record books. See you next time for episode 30. Oh my god, I'm getting old.